So, did the opening ceremony at the Paris Olympics openly mock Christianity? Stick around to find out. Well, I suspect many of us have already seen some snippets of the opening ceremony in Paris that openly mocked Christianity in several instances, featuring drag shows and transgenders imitating the Lord's Supper, one of the most holiest images of one of the most holy moments in sacred scripture. I have the image right here, something very well known and respected in Christian circles as it highlights that epic moment where Jesus institutes the Eucharist. It's being openly mocked in a country that used to be Christian, that used to be faithful to the Catholic Church. I can't show videos of it because I already tried to do that on YouTube, and they immediately hit me with a notice that they took down my video because of copyright content, even though it was actually fair use, even though I used less than a minute of material. It was immediately struck down, and I noticed that they're doing that to others as well. In fact, I'll show that to you real quick before we take a look at some images of what took place. Here's the notification I got. Video is blocked. Opening ceremony at the Paris Olympics. Copyrighted content has been detected in your video. Opening ceremony at the Paris Olympics. So they immediately took it down. Period. Blocked globally. Content owners, International Olympic Committee. And that was just within minutes of me posting that YouTube short, which is, again, only about a minute worth of material. And it was kind of a mix of material. So this is not something that should have been flagged. This is within fair use. So it's absurd that this is taking place. And I notice it's even taking place on YouTube. Well-known account Clown World, appropriately named for some of this stuff, posted this. Your account has been locked because X received a complaint. Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Why? Because they posted the footage about the opening ceremony where they're mocking Christians. Yeah. But there are still plenty of people that have it on Twitter, one of the few places where you actually can show certain things without getting blocked, with starting to see some exceptions here, as we just saw with Clown World on Twitter. One of the few places you can get access to some of this stuff. There's still plenty of accounts that have it up, so you're welcome to go and watch it there if you dare. I will show you, however, just briefly, some images of what took place. Wild stuff. Brace yourselves. I don't know what that is. A Smurf? Is that a Smurf? Dude came out of a dish bowl on top of a table that later on depicts, again, the Last Supper, which we'll see here in a moment. That looks like a Smurf to me. I don't know what's going on there. But you can see some more images here, just to get an idea of the opening ceremony. Yes, this is the culture that we're supposed to represent in Paris, evidently. People are saying it's Dionysius, the pagan god Dionysius, a Greek god. Again, you can see flanked by numerous transgenders. Why is this very small group, small minority in the population everywhere in the media? It's like they want the whole world to be transgender or something. And again, this isn't reflective of the vast majority of human beings throughout the world. It's a little weird that we constantly are being bombarded in the media with transgenderism and drag. Why is that? What's going on here? Again, that Smurf is supposed to represent the pagan goddess Dionysius or Bacchus. The whole show can be spent on that. But this is what we are trying to depict. This is what we want culture to be. Really? Wow. We are returning to our pagan roots very, very clearly. This is post-Christianity. So let me say this. It's one thing for a nation to be pagan prior to receiving the light of Christianity. But for it to go back to paganism, for society to go back to this debauchery after having received revelation from Jesus Christ, the true light, the true faith, revelation from God, after having embraced these things, to return to our vomit that we came out of. Wow. A greater judgment is going to fall on us because of this. Those nations that had never heard of Christianity will be judged less severely than those who had embraced Christianity and returned to their debauchery and paganism and vile material, as we're seeing here with the Olympics. Let me show you a few other images, especially the ones where it's clear they're mocking Christianity. This is, again, a group of transgenders surrounding this person in front of a soundboard, which is part of a wider image that you can see here at the top, very clearly depicting the Lord's Supper. Now, when I saw this, I immediately knew what they were doing here with the Olympics is trying to imitate what you see at the bottom, the Lord's Supper. I immediately knew. Before I read any commentary, before I saw any comments, it immediately struck me. And then I looked on social media and everybody else had concluded the same thing. So it's very, very clear that this is intended to be a pagan version, a mockery version of the Lord's Supper. Why does this happen? Satan wants to mock God and the true faith, Christianity. They don't do this to Muslims. They do this to Christianity. Why? Because Satan knows what the truth is. He hates it. He wants to mock it, but he knows what the truth is. And that's why you see Christians being treated this way in society. Satan can't defeat God. He's nothing, absolutely nothing compared to God. So all he can do is exercise his free will to mock God. That's all he can do. And that's what's taking place here with society. Now, I want to cover several things. First of all, I want to look at some responses that Christians have offered. I also want to listen to what Bishop Barron said about the issue. I want to consider who is the man behind this blasphemous and disgusting mockery of the Christian faith. We're going to take a look at that. Why does he say he did this? That's what we're going to take a look at. Everybody, hit that subscribe button. If you appreciate Reason and Theology, if you've benefited from it, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Help me share this on social media to reach more people so that more people can see Christians are not going to tolerate this. We're going to stand up. We're going to fight back. One way to do that is, of course, pray. Pray your rosary or pray whatever devotion you have and you prefer. Pray. Fight this spiritually. Do acts of reparation, and also protest this publicly. We can't just keep our faith private. We need to publicly speak up and publicly resist this. Let me show you something I came across. This is National Review. Drag queens parody the Last Supper during Olympics opening ceremony. So this is no secret that that's what they were doing. This isn't Christians being paranoid. Everybody is in agreement. That's what was taking place here. Drag queens parodied Leonardo da Vinci's rendition of the Last Supper during the opening ceremonies of the 2024 Paris Olympics on Friday evening, creating international outrage. Well, thank God that there's enough outrage still over this stuff. I kind of felt like we were asleep as Christians. I'm glad we're waking up. I'm glad we're speaking up. I'm glad that I saw outrage on social media about this. Thank God. That means we still got a pulse. There's still some hope for us. During the Olympic ceremonies, 18 performers recreated the scene, a depiction of Jesus Christ's final meal with his disciples before his crucifixion, which is just ridiculous. But you know why Satan hates the Last Supper? Because Jesus is instituting the Eucharist at that moment. What is the Eucharist? It's his body, blood, soul, and divinity that he gives to us so that we can commune with him, so we can become more like him. Satan hates that. He hates the Eucharist. So yes, he wants to mock the Last Supper. Well, it continues. It says this. The burlesque performance was an interpretation of the Greek god of wine and festivity, Dionysius. We're back to that again. We're going back to our pagan roots, aren't we? What a shame. Again, it's one thing for a nation to be misguided prior to receiving the light of the truth of Christianity. It's another for a nation to have embraced it and to return back to this foolishness. We're going back to where we started. And we will be judged more severely on the day of judgment for that. Nations that have received the light of Christ and have turned their back on him will be judged more severely than Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what Jesus says. And that day of judgment is coming. We profess that in the Creed. The Nicene Creed, also the Apostles' Creed. He will come back to judge the living and the dead. That day of judgment is coming, where God is going to judge all of us for what we have done, right or wrong. It says this. They did this to make viewers aware of the absurdity of violence between human beings, the Olympics said on X. Yeah, that was totally the takeaway that I got from that. Yeah. So we had a mockery of the Christian faith, one of the holiest moments of the Christian faith. We had a mockery of that. For what? Well, it was to show the absurdity of violence between human beings. Yeah, I'm totally buying that. No, it was because you wanted to mock Christians. That's why. If you wanted to show the absurdity of violence, this is not the way to do that. And nobody came away with that interpretation. No one with half of a brain would have concluded, yeah, totally makes sense. I mean, this is clearly showing the absurdity of violence between human beings. Yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to believe that? Sure. How dumb do they think we are? Seriously? It says, the scene featured some half-naked performers. One in the middle. By the way, there was a little girl in the scene. I kid you not, a little girl flanked by a bunch of profligate transgenders in drag doing disgusting things. I don't know, one of them, there's some images that it looks like a testicle was hanging out at the bottom of their outfit. Either it was a testicle or it was a hole in their, what are those things called that women wear? The pantyhose things? I don't know what the, I don't know. I'm not into drag and all that. I don't know enough, but it was like either a hole in the stocking. Yes, it's stockings. It was either a hole in the stockings or it was a testicle. It was kind of hard to tell from the image. I'm not going to show it here. Either way, it's disgusting, and this is being done in front of a child. And then people wonder why Christians are concerned that there seems to be a connection with this stuff in PDF files. I'll say PDF files so that YouTube won't ban me. PDF file, like that thing that you have on your computer whenever you change a Word document into a PDF file. That's what we're talking about. Sure. Mm-hmm. This is why people are concerned, because they see this stuff taking place. Well, it says a man who was painted blue and with only vines covering his genitals sat in the middle of the table and was surrounded by flowers and a little girl. Viewers called the performance crazy. Well, that's one word for it, sure. And Christian commenters on social media said that the scene made a mockery of the Christian faith. The Paris Games also opened this year with a performance by LGBTQ, of course, icon Lady Gaga paying tribute to French dancer and singer Zizi Jean Mayer near the River Seine, a performance by French-Canadian singer Celine Dion by the Eiffel Tower, and a torch-bearing act by rapper Snoop Dogg. I mean, the Olympics isn't complete unless Snoop Dogg is over there holding the torch, right? He's totally a embodiment of cardio and running. All right. Journalist Kyle Becker said on X that the 2024 Paris Olympics has gone full woke dystopian. The opening ceremony was filled with transgender mockery of the Last Supper, the golden calf idol, and even the pale horse from the Book of Revelation. It did kind of look like that. I don't know what they were doing, but the weird horse, scene that they had, I don't have an image of it here, unfortunately, but it did kind of look like a page out of the Book of Revelation or something. Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker called the visual crazy on Instagram. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. Quoting sacred scripture. European Parliament member Marion Marichal said on X, to all the Christians of the world who are watching the Paris ceremony and felt insulted by this drag queen parody of the Last Supper, know that it is not France that is speaking, but a left-wing minority ready for any provocation. Well, I appreciate that assurance, but it looks like they don't have them under control. But I totally bet they got this left wing under control when it comes to mocking Islam. Yeah. They got them under control there. But when it comes to mocking Christians, well, can't do anything about it. Athlete Riley Gaines also commented on the display, saying on social media, men in wigs front and center at the Olympic Games. No one ever tell me this group is oppressed or marginalized again. That's so true. You know who's oppressed? Christians. Christians. We're actually being marginalized. We're being oppressed. And we're not going to stand for it. And I'm tired of hearing about how LGBTQ crowd is oppressed when all we see on media is them being uplifted and then bringing Christians down. They're not oppressed. This is absurd. Out magazine, an LGBTQ publication, meanwhile, praised queens everywhere for this huge moment for drag performers breaking through the mainstream and showing their talents to the entire world. Yeah, it was just so talented. Yeah. Yeah, well done, guys. Ridiculous. Now, let's look at some comments here from some of the Catholic bishops, especially in France. This is an article by CNN. A drag queen-led parody of the Last Supper featured during Friday's opening ceremonies of the 2024 Paris Olympics has sparked a wave of incensed reactions and denunciations. And again, you know what? I'm actually encouraged by that. I'm encouraged. So there are still Christians who have a backbone. I saw, what's that ridiculous guy's name? Andrew Tate. I saw him mocking Christians. The guy is the most ignorant fool I've seen online. But he was mocking Christians, saying that we have no backbone. Well, the outrage that I've seen online shows otherwise. There's plenty of Christians who are still willing to stand up to this stuff. Praise God. Well, a drag queen-led parody of the Last Supper featured during Friday's opening ceremonies of the 2024 Paris Olympics has sparked a wave of incensed reactions and denunciations. In a statement released Saturday, the French Bishops' Conference criticized the scenes of derision and mockery of Christianity, which we deeply deplore. We thank the members of other religious denominations who have expressed their solidarity. This morning, we think of all Christians on all continents who have been hurt by the outrage and provocation of certain scenes, the French bishop said. One of the best-known prelates of the Catholic Church in the United States, we're going to take a look at his words here in a moment, Bishop Barron, called on Catholics to make their voice heard in response to what he called the gross mockery of the Last Supper. And I appreciate Bishop Barron's words and the sentiment that he expresses in the video we're about to take a look at. It very much echoes the same commentary I've been offering. In a post on X, Barron said that the blasphemous act was emblematic of a deeply secularist postmodern society that identifies Christianity as its enemy. And I like what Barron says. And believe them when they say Christianity is their enemy. Believe them. Like, take them at their word. We are their enemy. Meanwhile, in reparation for the blasphemy, Bishop Donald Hine of Madison, Wisconsin, immediately, it says, called on all Catholics to fast and pray, renew our devotion to the Eucharist, the Sacred Heart, and the Virgin Mary. Okay, fair enough. And I appreciate that we're doing acts of reparation. May Jesus be adored and loved in every tabernacle throughout the world. Hine added in a post on X in which he thanked the Lord for the Eucharist, the Last Supper, and his love for us. Bishop Daniel Florence of Brownsville, Texas, was also quick to share his reaction, stating, "My vocabulary is not varied enough to find a word for the feeling in the pit of my stomach, and asserting that people of Christian faith deserve more respect." I agree. But as I pointed out yesterday, when we have a failure to live a life of holiness and a failure to root out sexual immorality, even in the clergy, well, it's hard to then expect society to respect us. And I know that's a hard truth that some bishops and some priests and some laity don't want to hear, but it's the truth. If we are failing to root out wild sexual deviancy within the clergy, especially in reference to men who are supposed to be celibate, and we're seeing them on Grindr, and then they sue Grindr. Did a whole show about this yesterday. And we failed to root them out, and we allow them to stay into active ministry. It's hard to call society to respect us. So while I appreciate a call to society to respect us, I echo that. I express that here. I also reiterate my call to the bishops to root out sexual immorality from their own group, from other bishops in the Catholic Church, from priests. And if we don't do that, we really can't expect sexually immoral and devious figures outside of the church to respect us, when they see no difference between our behavior and their behavior, except in their case, they glorify their actions, and then we hypocritically say they're wrong, but then we tolerate it. So I appreciate what the bishop is saying, but I want to say, you know what? I really want to see the bishops hold their own accountable. Flores' sentiments were also echoed by non-Christians. Even as a Jew, I'm infuriated by this outrageous insult to Jesus and Christianity, said Dr. Eli David. He panned the opening ceremonies as reflecting a Europe that is culturally dying. I saw a few Muslims also saying the same thing, even on this channel. There's evidently a minority of Muslims who watch the content. I appreciate y'all watching the show. I hope it's beneficial to y'all. I call all of y'all to Jesus Christ and the one true faith, but I appreciate y'all watching. And I saw a few of them say, hey, yeah, this isn't right to treat Christians like that. And I appreciate that. I appreciate a Muslim saying that. It continues. The world's materially richest man, Elon Musk, also called the spectacle extremely disrespectful to Christians. Yeah. For his part, United States Senator Marco Rubio, a Catholic, responded to what he called the Olympic freak show by quoting Jude 1:18, and the last time there will be scoffers who will live according to their own godless desires. That's appropriate. Wow. That's a very helpful verse. Very helpful verse. That's very, very fitting, very true. Wow. Do y'all see why it's necessary for us as Christians to talk about politics? I've had a few people say, Michael, why are you talking about politics? What does that have to do with theology? Theology impacts every area of life, and Catholic theology says that we're required to speak in the political arena. We're required to as Catholics. That's Catholic theology. Catholic theology says that. But people with this mentality of divorcing religion from politics, they're partly responsible for what we're seeing in society because people have done this, because Christians haven't spoken up enough in the public sphere, because we haven't done those things, especially as Catholics, especially from an angle of being faithful to the magisterium. You're going to see society decline more and more and more because we're not challenging it from a Christian perspective in the public sphere, in the public arena. Do you see why now it's important to talk about these things? Because they're mocking us in public. They're doing that. So whether we talk about politics or not, they're talking about us. They're mocking us. So we have to speak up and we have to say something. We have to do something against this. The place to start is, again, acts of reparation, rosary, prayer, devotions, Eucharistic adoration, but also publicly speaking up and expressing our disapproval for what is taking place, boycotting whatever is necessary to make this stop. What blows me away, as we're going to see here in a moment, is the guy who created this, the guy who was behind this, did this because he wanted the ceremony to be inclusive for everyone. Inclusive for everyone except Christians. Seriously? This wasn't inclusive. This was extremely exclusive. The only group that was included here are the ones who hate God and mock God. They're the only ones who are inclusive. But those who follow the true faith, they're excluded. We'll take a look at that here in just a second. But first, I want to take a look at what Bishop Barron said, because, again, his own sentiments here echoed what I said about it and will continue to say. So I really appreciate it that he spoke up. Let me share my screen, make sure you can hear the audio, and let's watch it together. It's pretty short. It's only like 2 minutes long.
This is Bishop Barron. You know, just a few days ago, I was in Indianapolis for the marvelous celebration of the Eucharistic Congress, 50,000 Catholics coming together to worship the Lord and celebrate the real presence of Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. So I come from that experience, and I come home, and, you know, I love the Olympics, so I turn on the opening ceremonies in the Olympics, what do I see now? And it's in Paris, France, a city I love. I spent 3 years as a doctoral student there. What do I see but this gross mockery of the Last Supper? And I won't describe it any further. Just go online. It's gone viral. You can see it. But this France felt evidently, as it's trying to put its best cultural foot forward, the right thing to do is to mock this very central moment in Christianity where Jesus, at his Last Supper, gives his body and blood in anticipation of the cross. And so it's presented, though, as this gross, sort of flippant mockery. France, which used to be called the eldest daughter of the church, Paris, that gave us Thomas Aquinas taught there, and Vincent de Paul was there, King Louis IX, St. Louis, France that sent Catholic missionaries all over the world. France, whose culture, and I mean the honoring of the individual and of human rights and of freedom, is grounded very much in Christianity, felt the right thing to do was to mock the Christian faith. A question I would pose, we all know the answer to it. Would they ever have dared mock Islam in a similar way? Would they ever have dreamed of mocking in this gross, public way, a scene from the Quran? As I say, we all know the answer to that. I think, folks, what's interesting here is this deeply secularist postmodern society knows who its enemy is. They're naming it, and we should believe them. They're telling us who they are. We should believe them. But furthermore, we Christians, we Catholics should not be sheepish. We should resist. We should make our voices heard.
Yeah, I appreciate what he says there. When they single us out as their enemies, we should believe them. Don't argue. Believe them. We are their enemies. And that tells you something about us, and it tells you something about them. It's sad to see how France has fallen. The eldest daughter of the Catholic Church. I have another row way up here on this back bookshelf. You can't see it here, but one of the books on that row is Gregory of Tours and his conversion of the Franks. One of those people who converted the French people and brought them to Christianity in 400s, somewhere around there. Details all of that. Wow, we've come a long way from that, haven't we? Just to go back to one's pagan roots after having embraced the true faith, it doesn't make any sense. And let me just say this, even just from a cultural perspective, the culture of Christianity, what you find in the Bible, is 1,000 times more superior than this culture of debauchery and vile baselessness. I don't know why anybody would want to promote this kind of disgusting and wretched culture. Christianity is incredibly superior to this nonsense. It's amazing to me that people are embracing this stupidity. So let's look at the man behind this. Okay, so this is coming from Pink News. I suppose they're probably, in favor of the ceremony by that name, but let's look at what Pink News has to say. Queer Olympic opening ceremony director wants everyone to feel represented. Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. I totally feel represented there. As a Christian, yeah. First of all, this isn't even what the Olympics about. I thought the Olympics was, about sports or something. Not about pandering to a certain group or communicating a ridiculous message. But seriously, if that was the intention, you wanted to feel everyone represented it. You know what that really meant? Everyone except Christians. Everyone that's part of this other group here that hates Christianity and fights against Christianity, he wants that group to feel represented. He wants everyone in that group, but not everyone else outside of that group. That's what that really meant. So let me rephrase that. Instead of everyone to feel represented, everyone except Christians. Everyone except people who are decent, immoral human beings. Got it. The guy's name is Thomas Jolly, a queer Olympic opening ceremony director. So he is queer himself. No wonder he is trying to promote this disgusting agenda and trying to normalize it. Again, a very small group of people compared to the rest of the world. But somehow they got to shove this in our face continually, even though it doesn't represent most people. The man with the task of delivering the Paris 2024 Olympic Games opening ceremony says he wants everyone to feel represented. Queer artistic director Thomas Jolly spoke to British Vogue about the preparations for the opening and closing ceremonies for this summer's Olympics, which began in Paris on July 26th. While his plans include 200 boats, he's determined not to disturb the river's aquatic life. Yeah. Well, let's not disturb the little fishies. But we could totally disturb Christians. Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Okay. The actor, comedian, and comedian. Yeah, I agree. He is a comedian. The actor, comedian, and theater director who has explored LGBTQ plus themes in his stage work also wants to ensure his celebration show that there is room for everyone in Paris. Everyone except Christians, though. Yeah. Everyone except Christians. That's what that means. Mm-hmm. The opening ceremony will be a success only if everyone feels represented in it. Well, hey, what's his name again? Thomas? Well, Mr. Thomas, we Christians didn't feel included, so you failed according to your own ridiculous standard. Nice socks, by the way. Okay. Jolly, who was brought up in a small village in Normandy, recalled that he was bullied at secondary school. I had yellow Doc Martens all day. I was jeered at because of my yellow shoes. Well, Mr. Jolly, I'm so sorry that you were mocked and bullied, but now you have become that bully by bullying Christians. So, how are you any better than those people who mocked you and bullied you as a kid because of your Doc Martens? Which I don't know why anybody would be bullied for some Doc Martens, but whatever. Sorry they did that to you. That now makes it okay for you to now go and bully Christians. He said, I thought, do you realize how absurd this is? Theater helped him realize that anything is possible. It was where he found himself. Well, let's go to another article here, because this one had me rolling on the floor laughing. This one is from British Vogue on June 4th, so obviously before the ceremony. And look at the title. Look at the title. Thomas Jolly is masterminding the most complex Olympic ceremony of all time. And it's got him like over here in the river with some ducks and a little raft with a sweater, neck, shirt, whatever. It's just okay. Hold on. Wait. Thomas Jolly is masterminding the most complex Olympic ceremony of all times. Was that the takeaway you had? Was that the takeaway that most sane people had about this? No. That one didn't age very well. Oh, wow. Golly. This is wild stuff, y'all. I think you get the point. Now, I saw some people online posting stuff like, oh, well, guys, this Thomas Jolly guy is a Jew, So it's a Jewish plot against the Christian faith. I don't know if he's Jewish or not. I wasn't able to verify any of that information. Let's just go ahead and assume that for the moment he isn't Jewish. But let's replace the scenario. Okay, let's go through this again. What if instead of mocking Christians, they mocked something that is really holy to Jews? What if they did that? Would that have been tolerated? Would that have been allowed? What if they had mocked Jews with depictions of the Holocaust and concentration camps like Dachau and others? What if they had done that? That would never have been allowed. And rightly so. Rightly so. Rightly so. That should never be tolerated. But what we witnessed at the Olympics mocking Christians also should not have been tolerated. But there is a double standard here. This society is very clear. They're not going to mock Jews or Muslims or Hindus or anyone else, but they will mock Christians. I'm not saying it's okay to mock any of those faiths, but what I'm saying is there is a double standard here. It's open season on Christianity. It's tolerated. That tells you what? That we're the group that's actually marginalized. And that needs to change. We need to change that. We can start by prayer, acts of reparation, and public vocalizing of our positions, boycotts, whatever, protests, whatever we need to do to show that we're not going to tolerate this. Everybody, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. If you appreciate this channel, if you appreciate this message, if you want more people to see it, do your part. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. And if you want to support me over and against those who are calling for my cancellation because I've spoken up about the truth, and believe me, there are many of them, please consider supporting me at patreon.com/reason and theology. It's a great place to support me. You'll get access to extra exclusive content, and it will enable me to continue to do what I'm doing here. Thank y'all so much for watching. Let's pray. Acts of reparation. Pray for the prayer of Thomas Jolly and all who were involved in this, that they would be converted to the one true faith. Pray for France to return to the one true faith. And pray for this kind of mockery against Christianity to end. See y'all later. God bless.